Hello. May the peace of the Lord be with you too, my brother/sister. May His grace and blessings abound in your life. Welcome and feel free to share, chat or ask for anything you need. May God richly bless you in all areas of your life. Amen. Psalm 74 is a deeply emotional lyrical piece, written in the form of a lamentation, which evokes a sense of helplessness and sadness at the devastation of God's sanctuary in holy places. Attributed to Asaph, one of King David's musicians, this psalm is a passionate plea for divine help and justice in times of trial and distress. From the beginning, the psalmist demonstrates acute pain and questions the apparent divine rejection by asking, "O God, why have you rejected us forever? Why does your anger burn against the sheep of your pasture?" Psalm 74 verse 1. Bewilderment and anguish are evident in the tone of his voice as he recalls the glorious past of the congregation and the redemption that God has provided for his people since ancient times. Asaph cries out to God to behold the perpetual desolations and evil done by enemies in the sanctuary and holy places. Through poetic metaphor, he describes the desecration of these holy places, where enemy ensigns now stand as symbols of conquest and blasphemy. The psalmist recalls the glorious past of the nation, when valiant men lifted thick axes against the dense vegetation of the forests, a memorable feat that is now only a distant memory. Instead, what you see is the carved work destroyed, as if the grandeur of the past is being overshadowed by the destruction of the present. Through a collective lament, the poet speaks on behalf of his people, expressing the lack of signs and the absence of prophets among them. Insecurity and the feeling of abandonment become palpable, while the cry for the return of divine presence and guidance is echoed with intensity. Asaph, in his supplication, reminds God of the power he has already displayed in the past, mentioning the parting of the sea and the destruction of the whales, as examples of his strength and authority. These memories serve to reinforce trust in the Lord despite the despair of the current situation. The psalmist's rhetoric highlights the very greatness of God as King from of old, whose works of salvation are manifested on earth. The memory of divine intervention in the past serves to renew hope and conviction that God has not completely abandoned them. Yet the poet's pain and perplexity persist, and he cries out to God to rebuke the affront of enemies and plead his own cause. The situation of the people seems desperate, and Asaph pleads for divine protection and justice. In his last words, the psalmist begs God not to forget the suffering of the afflicted and needy. He calls for the remembrance of the established covenant and calls for an end to the abodes of cruelty that occupy the dark places of the earth. Psalm 74 is therefore an expression of deep sadness, despair and supplication to God in the face of the adversities faced by the people. It portrays the poet's inner struggle as he confronts the apparent absence of God, while trusting in his power and goodness to restore justice and peace. Its message resonates through the centuries, serving as an inspiration to all who face trials and seek hope in the midst of chaos. Let's pray Psalm 74 and then the Lord's Prayer. O God, why have you rejected us forever? Why does your anger burn against the sheep of your pasture? Remember your congregation, which you purchased from of old, from the rod of your inheritance, which you redeemed, from this Mount Zion, where you dwelt. Lift up your steps to perpetual desolations, to all that the enemy has done evil in the sanctuary. Your enemies roar in the midst of your holy places, they put their ensigns for signs on them. A man became famous as he raised thick axes against the thickness of the trees. But now all the work carved at once with axes and hammers. They set fire to your sanctuary, they have profaned the dwelling place of your name to the ground. They said in their heart, let us spoil them at once. They burned all of God's holy places on earth. We no longer see our signs, there is no longer a prophet, nor is there anyone among us who knows how long this will be. How long, O God, will the adversary defy us? Will the enemy blaspheme your name forever? Why do you withdraw your hand, even your right hand? Get it out of your bosom. Yet God is my King from of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. You divided the sea by your strength, you broke the heads of the whales in the waters. Thou didst break the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him for food to the inhabitants of the wilderness. You made springs and streams burst, you dried up the mighty rivers. Yours is the day and yours is the night, you prepared the light and the sun. You have established all the boundaries of the earth, summer and winter you formed them. Remember this, that the enemy affronted the Lord and that a crazy people blasphemed your name. Do not give the soul of your turtledove to wild animals, do not forget forever the lives of your afflicted. Pay attention to your covenant, for the dark places of the earth are full of abodes of cruelty. Oh, let not the oppressed return ashamed, let the afflicted and the needy praise your name. Arise, O God, plead your own cause, remember the affront that the madman continually makes you. Do not forget the cries of your enemies, the tumult of those who rise up against you continually increases. May the Lord, our God and Father, extend his hands of blessings over all his children, protecting them and delivering them from all evil. May his presence be felt in every home, bringing peace, comfort and provision in abundance. We ask for physical, emotional and spiritual healing for all who face illness and difficulties. May God's restorative power be upon each life, bringing health and well-being. We thank you for your goodness and constant provision, trusting that we will never lack for anything on our table. May we recognize his grace and care in every detail of our lives. Praise be to God for his wonderful works and for his unconditional love for us, his children. May we live in gratitude, praising and glorifying his name every day. May the Lord's peace, God's grace and love be with you all, strengthening you in your journey of faith and guiding you in his light. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, blessed is your name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. However, Psalm 74 teaches us to look beyond seemingly unfavorable circumstances and find refuge in the God who has the power to act and bring salvation. We remember his works of old, his creative power over the earth, and his control over the seasons and elements of nature. This reaffirms our conviction that, despite difficult circumstances, he remains sovereign and faithful in his promises. The psalmist, in calling for covenant remembrance and divine intervention, teaches us to seek God with faith and perseverance in our prayers. It inspires us to express our worries, sorrows and uncertainties to the Lord, knowing that he is attentive to the cry of his children. Thus, as we pray Psalm 74, we are encouraged to renew our trust in God, confident that he is always there, listening to us and working on our behalf. We can find comfort and security in the knowledge that, despite our difficulties, he is able to bring healing, protection, and peace into our lives. May Psalm 74 serve as a source of encouragement to face adversity with faith and hope, knowing that our God is able to act on our behalf and guide us in his path of justice and love. Just as Asaph expressed his concerns and pleas to God, we can also approach him in prayer, trusting his faithfulness and seeking his will in all circumstances of life. Amen.